All right, let's just get through with our topic today. Okay, so this is actually the last part of this session. Today's topic is about technologies for knowledge management. I would like to start with this what you call this quote by a person called Sukan Ratnaka, saying that innovation is the outcome of a habit, not a random act. So, technology can bring a really powerful things, the way that it can facilitate us, it can help us to do a lot of wonders, okay? If you reflect about the COVID-19 pandemic that we are dealing with, with technologies also, I can actually run lecture with you guys, and then you also can actually going through with your education, in the journey to get your degree, okay? So, and then reflecting back, like we say, from the knowledge management, the principles that actually start from data, information, knowledge, and finally wisdom. So technology actually have a lot of these features, okay, that enable those tacit, explicit knowledge to be converted, to be shared, to be captured, to be stored, and then to be, to create a lot of wonderful thing where knowledge actually can be expanded, okay, and then can stimulate innovation. So that's actually the context of where technology is coming in, to support knowledge management. So for today, we are actually having 4 learning objectives. So we look at the roles of the knowledge management programs in the context of business, okay, the type of system, and then we also look how actually they create the value, okay, to the organization or firms. And then most importantly right now, like what you call this, briefly share with you about the artificial intelligence. So in the context of knowledge management right now, the intelligent techniques is actually very important to understand, okay? From there, then we can organization leverage, and we can also see the clear impact of the what you call this technology from there, okay? So just to revisit back what we have discussed last week, okay? So we actually look at the 3, foundations of knowledge management that start from data, information, knowledge, okay? So you should already understand what's the meaning of data, okay? How do you define as information? It is actually a meaningful data that make up information, okay? When it comes to knowledge, knowledge basically a contextualized of information, meaning that it have to be, in the context of application, okay? And then it give meaning, okay? So that's actually what you define as knowledge. And then of course at the upper levels there we have wisdom, and finally it's about decision making, which is actually where the human being rely on this data, information, knowledge. And wisdom is the guidance, the integrated actionable part, okay? So this is a context where the intelligent techniques actually coming in, and then actually really create wonders in terms of the decision making. Last week also, just to recap back, we differentiate 2 major type of knowledge, okay, tacit and explicit. But there are other taxonomies or the type of knowledge that you can actually look at it, okay? For example, like individual knowledge, okay? Example is, let me just move this one, it's quite disturbing to have this disturbing all the time, okay? So like individual knowledge, this is actually knowledge that actually insight that you obtain from the individuals, okay? So individual knowledge actually can easily be converted, to become the explicit knowledge. So you can actually allow that process, So, and then you have also social knowledge that we classify actually within actually groups. And then procedural knowledge, for example, like a surgeon or like the, doctors, when they are actually administer a particular drug to treat patient, for example. So there are procedures that actually apply to that. And then causal knowledge, conditional knowledge, relational knowledge, and practical knowledge, okay? Practical knowledge is actually the part that the common one we see under the best practices, okay, benchmarking and so on. So these are actually just to give you, revisit back about what we actually covered last week, okay? Now, we also actually look, okay, about the, what you call the perspective that we can adopt. For example, if we look from the knowledge as part of using it, to influence action, okay, to determine organizational capability. Then we will actually look from the knowledge management actually to go for the strategic values, okay. So where the role of IT will come in. So the role of IT is actually to enhance intellectual capital. For example, for the innovation, you create more patterns for the organization, okay. And then the role of IT also to support development of individual and organizational competency. So you make the workforce more competent. You make the organization increase the organizational competency. And then intellectual capital, meaning that you are actually stimulating innovation, okay, allowing patterns, all those new products coming in and so on. And sometimes knowledge also being used within the process, area or process domain. So when actually this is actually the perspective that we take knowledge, what you call this as a process. So we are looking about the knowledge management that really focus on the flow, such as process of creation, sharing, and distributing knowledge. So in this context, the technology coming in because it provides the link among sources of knowledge to create wider or breadth and depth of knowledge flow. Now, let I give you the example. So right now, when I look from the knowledge point of view and how actually I will use knowledge management system as a lecturer, okay, I look at knowledge is actually as, a state of mind, okay, because this is actually where I teach you, okay, I as a lecturer, you as a student. So I need to allow, even not just you, me, myself, okay, in the context of knowing and understanding, okay. And then, when I use the technology, so I would like to share, what I always have a conversation with you, okay, sharing sources of knowledge, like what I share through the reference, through the YouTube and so on, So this is actually where I use the technology. In this case, like YouTube application, online material that I found through Google, journals and so on, okay. And of course, I also look at knowledge as a process, meaning that this is actually where I apply my expertise. And then I also focus on the flow. This is actually where, if you are involved, I think all of you have to use ELIP. Okay, ELIP is a learning management system. So the role of ELIP here is actually to provide the link among sources of knowledge so that I can create a wider breadth and depth of knowledge flow that going to go to you and you also responding it and I also learn from you, okay? So basically if I look at a process, knowledge as a process here, the technology such as ELIP actually can achieve that, what you call this, kind of whatever objective that I intend to under learning management system, okay? Similar like access to information. So knowledge management focus is organized access and retrieval of content. So in this case, for example, we have KAIS, for example, Center of Academic, or now actually branding to Petari. So they have actually the very good library system where you can actually do the search and retrieval all the related online materials, okay, journals, online books, and so on, so that you can gain knowledge. So this is actually how you look from the perspective and you define from their implication. Is it very clear to everyone? Is it very clear? So if I ask the questions in the exam later on, if you adopt a knowledge as a process, can you actually describe how actually the technology impact, towards you as individual? So you must be able to answer the way that I described to you. Okay, so these are actually the aspect that you actually need to understand. Okay, now let's go back to the content that we're going to go through today. So we just adopt first for this technology knowledge, from the viewpoints of, as part of the process. So we understand it as a set of business process, okay, developed in organization to create, to store, to transfer, and to apply knowledge, okay. And then within the context of the value chain, if you remember, we have the value chain that actually, you have a supply chain management. We also learn about the value chain. The value chain in the business context is actually from raw materials until you go to the final product and reaching the customer. Okay, so that's, and then the concept of value chain coming when you add value in all the business process or the related business process. Okay, so in the knowledge management value chain, we also have that kind of concept that we actually look that, understand that each stage actually adding value to raw data and information as they are transformed into usable knowledge. So there are four, what you call this process here. Okay, acquisition, storage, dissemination, and application. So let's go to one by one. So the first part is actually how do we acquire knowledge? So how do you obtain knowledge? As a student like you go into your degree, taking your business degree right now. So in other words, you are actually acquiring knowledge through enrolling into this first degree program. Okay, so that you can take courses, all these things you learn. Okay, so that's actually where you gain the knowledge and skills. Okay. So when you acquire knowledge, so we also learn that it can be two forms, tacit and explicit knowledge. So the tacit knowledge is the one that you are actually, very difficult to acquire. It can be, okay, tacit knowledge is the way that we socialize, the way that we talk. And then, and then explicit knowledge this is actually the one that we codified or coded the knowledge, such as document, report, presentation, and then emails, and then these are actually what we mean by the explicit knowledge. And then in the context of knowledge acquisition, we want to acquire both tacit and explicit knowledge. Okay, and then so we can in the normal typical situation, we the typical what happened, for example, like shopping mall, for example, like you go to buy groceries, they have this transaction processing system. TPS mean that transaction processing system where they scan your products, so you so they get how much that you have to pay for this product, so it all appear in the screen, the transaction processing system. That's actually the data. Okay, and after that, if you shopping in the in the big shopping mall, they will ask you, do you have, for example, in Malaysia, they ask you, do you have a bonus link, for example? If you go to Giant, they ask you, you go to Guardian, they ask you, do you have the card, for the point and so on. Okay, so these are actually the collecting of data. Okay, and then when you give them the bonus link and so on, so the data actually being profiling you, okay, as their customer, so that they know what kind of product that you buy, and they can even profile you when they are creating a meaningful data, so they are making information about you. Okay, for example, like Dr. Rohaya purchase products, so far I never buy any what you call this product that such as this diapers or this thing. Why? Because Dr. Rohaya doesn't have kids, so they know that. So even you don't declare, by reading from your pattern, they can actually, the technology allow actually to make that kind of assumption through information, okay, the intelligent assumption. So, and then it's also about the external sources of data. So acquisition, where we acquire knowledge, so technology actually focus on getting both sides, okay? And then storage. So where do we store knowledge? So, when you store knowledge in database, a document management system, this is actually the explicit knowledge that already converted, then you can store it, okay? So the role of management here is actually to support and also to encourage, in terms of how we make use and indexing document. And also we should actually encourage and reward employees, those who are actually taking time to update and store document properly, so that you can have a proper, what you call this, knowledge management work system in place, okay? So this is the aspect of how we store knowledge. And then the next one is about sharing. Dissemination means that how knowledge being shared, okay? So technology available, a lot of, in many platforms, such as portal, wikis, email, instant messaging, search engine, collaboration tools, And because of the technology available, you also have a lot of this overwhelmed information, especially when running training program, because there is so much information actually being shared, okay, like what we experience now, okay? And this is also can create challenge for the student. A long time ago, at that time, we have to use, Apple Macintosh, and also IBM Microsoft, so we have all those what you call this situation. We go to the lab, use this one, and go to another lab, use this one. But at that particular time also, we have this what you call this, we use the internet as well, okay. But at that particular time, we don't have Google. Okay, we have Yahoo, we have Excite, so we have those. The one that I can remember is actually Yahoo, search engine. We don't have Google that time. Okay, so what happening at that time also? I still have to go to the library. Okay, I stay sometime until 12 midnight because in Purdue we are actually staying in campus, and then we rented a house and we can walk something like that. Okay. So, and then, you right now, you have with your smartphone, and we don't have that at that particular time, okay, 1996, 97, 98, we don't have that, okay. So, how do you actually, but, like doing this through the, what you call Zoom, okay, we don't have that at that time, okay. So that's actually something that I find it's actually really, really good memory to have those kind of privilege access to this technology, okay. And of course, once you dengar guna the what you call this, the audio and so on, our library is actually quite sophisticated, in Purdue at that particular time. So this is actually where the importance of the sharing knowledge, okay. And technology can create a lot of wonders for that. And then how do you apply knowledge? I mentioned to you before, knowledge can become only very, very powerful when you put into action, okay? So these are actually the contexts, the knowledge application can provide the return of investment, okay? And then making the decision-making better. And of course, in the context of organization, it make the organization, create the organization, to become, like a learning organization that always innovative, okay? When you apply knowledge in the context of organization, you will actually allow for the new product, services, business practice that actually getting better. You can go for the new market and so on. So this is actually the context of where the knowledge management tools or technology can come in to actually added values, okay? So if you look from this figure, okay, so when you're talking from the point of view, knowledge actually should acquire, storing, disseminate, and apply. So there are a lot of technological tools inside that available. They are very, very specialized to support all these processes, okay? So for example, if you want to acquire knowledge, we have what you call this various support system, technology system, okay, such as data mining, such as a genetic algorithm, such as an expert knowledge network. For example, knowledge discovery. For example, acquire knowledge. Facebook also acquire knowledge from users like us. Okay, there's nothing free in this world. Okay, Facebook, Instagram, social media apps, and so on. Okay, and then they also storing knowledge about us. Okay, that's why you need to understand the content of privacy and so on. Okay, so that because they make use of that. Okay. So the storing knowledge also, there are actually document management system, knowledge database, expert system, and so on. Do you remember that, if you update your post in the Facebook saying that, I think I have a fever, and suddenly you see there's a Panadol actually appear in the advertisement, or you see those kind of link over there, okay? So whatever you key in, whatever text that you put in the Facebook, they have the system that actually reading that, and then after that they just make use of it, and then actually put in terms of advertising. Okay, so they earn through the advertising revenue. So that's actually how they actually looking in terms of creating that kind of what you call this for them. Okay, the value for them. And then disseminating knowledge. So there are actually a lot of this application, okay, search engine, collaboration, and then application when you apply knowledge. So in the context of business organization, enterprise application, meaning that you can have the various kind of application that are actually knowledge integrated with the knowledge management system, okay, bank, even university, and so on, okay. So these are actually the context where the business process, or the process that related to acquire, store, disseminate, apply, and where technology actually can add value. So this is actually the context of knowledge management value chain. And then the same, like I mentioned to you last time, when you talk from the management, the reflection on the management and organizational activities. So all these aspects will relate back in terms of the activities that we are doing. Okay, for example, if we are talking from the acquiring knowledge, so you are actually, for example, like communities of practice. Community of practice meaning that we're sharing a lot. We involve in our professional networks. Okay, so there are a lot of this tacit and explicit knowledge actually going on. Okay, and then if we talk from the storing, for example, store knowledge, you have the routines, meaning that there are procedure, there are document, there are policies, that the organization require the staff to check, okay, the handbook and so on. If you talk disseminate in the organization, it's a must to have a training program for the organization, for the workforce, for example. So what happened in the activities in the organization, the training program is the part where we disseminate knowledge. And then we talking from application. This is actually what I mentioned to you. When you apply knowledge, you put into action, it can create a lot of wonderful things. A person can becoming more innovative. They can create an opportunity for them. The new product, new market, the entrepreneur, okay, can be emerged from that, that kind of journey if they are actually know how to apply knowledge, okay, for creating new market, for example. So these are actually the context of knowledge management value chain. Now let's move to the next one. So if we bring a bit, just to define a bit about the organizational role and responsibility, okay, one of the important thing that we see is actually communities of practice. So this is actually defined as the informal social network of professionals and employees, okay, within and outside firm who have similar work-related activities, and interests. You can look in this point. Community of practice is not just about the what you call the professionals, and employees only. This is the organization viewpoint. You can look at community of practice also based on interest. For example, you have a group that like cats, that like dogs. They are very specialized in cats and dogs, for example, and they establish their own community for that, to share, to disseminate knowledge and so on. So basically, when they establish community of practice, it dealing a lot with the activity related to knowledge, acquiring, knowledge storing, okay, knowledge dissemination, okay, knowledge application. So these are the aspect, and then they make everyone actually more smarter if everyone can take advantage of that, okay. So these are actually the term about community of practice. And then, and of course, we also recognize that there can be three major type of knowledge management system. So the enterprise-wide knowledge management system. This is actually where the firm or the organization, put an effort, okay, to make it as the enterprise-wide, meaning that all in the organization, everyone using it, okay. So the effort is to collect, store, distribute, and apply the digital content and knowledge. Okay, for example, like in UNIMAS, we have various application that we can define as enterprise-wide. Okay, for example, we have the electronic human resource management. Okay, we also have, for example, for student, you also have your what you call student management system or something like that. Okay, so that you can respond to give the details. You can check about your what you call this, your tuition fees and so on, your grade, so all those kind of things. So these are actually the context of the enterprise wide. So when the university collect or get information from you, we also, as a lecturer, we can actually see each of you, your performance. That's why you have the academic advisor, okay? So the enterprise wide, meaning that this is actually the whole wide efforts, okay? And then knowledge work system, this is actually a rather specialized system that actually really developed, for engineers, scientists, or knowledge workers. So that when they are involved in the projects that actually discover or creating new knowledge, such as a software development team, software engineer team, or you can have the team of engineer doing something. You can have the scientists like the COVID-19, they try to create vaccine. So they have actually what we call a knowledge work system, so that they can share, they can store knowledge, they can put everything that related to their work, so that they can actually help to create or discover new knowledge, okay? And then the third one, the type is actually called intelligent technique. So these are actually the diverse group of technique, such as data mining and used for various purpose, such as to discover knowledge, to distill knowledge, and also to go by the best optimal solution. So intelligent techniques allow for patterns, allow for recommendations, okay, allow for the best, intelligent guess. Okay, so these are actually the role of the intelligent techniques that coming in. So this is actually the one that I already explained to you. Okay, so intelligent technique, for example, it can go for the like neural network expert system. So expert system is quite a common actually in the being used in banking, for example, to approve someone to apply loan. So they actually, the bankers or whoever actually in charge of that, okay, they're using the expert system to profile the customer and also to look at the recommendation, actually what you call this, based on whatever information being fed in the system. Okay, so whether that this client actually should be approved for the loan, whether that they should be rejected, for example. Okay, and then fuzzy logic, you will see a lot of this application in the home appliance, for example. Washing machine, you know, you that have fuzzy logic, for example, they can detect what sort of materials actually coming in or put in inside the, you know, the washing machine, whether there is silk, whether there is a cotton, and then the system adjusted accordingly. So if silk, for example, the washing machine can just, you know, make it, a certain program that actually run for silk type of clothes. So those are actually the kind of what we call intelligent techniques used, okay, so to discover pattern, apply knowledge for the decision and knowledge domain. So these are actually the definition for that three major types. And then if we look from the enterprise-wide knowledge management system, so you can actually look from the structured, semi-structured, and also unstructured or tacit knowledge. This is actually reflecting closely to how we make decision. So there are two scenarios here, the structured decision and semi-structured decision. For example, the structured decision, we wake up, what you call this, every morning. You know, you don't actually have to think so much that you need to brush teeth, take shower before you come into class. Okay, that's actually a very structured decision. But the semi-structured decision is actually something that sometimes you have to determine. For example, you have to check your schedule. Oh, today I have a message, doctor, do we have class today? Because someone already ready with that at 8 o'clock and they're waiting for the class. So they decide to ask Dr. Rohaya because, there's actually the decision making they have to take, and it's semi-structured, okay, in that context. The unstructured is actually the most toughest one. For example, should I accept this guy to become my boyfriend? Or should I actually accept this guy to become my husband one day? For example, that is actually not something that you can just go by A, B, C or Baling Dadu, right? So that's actually the semi-structured, okay? So if you talk from the kind of knowledge that reflected on this decision making, so you also see that document also can be placed, according to the three contexts as well. Structured document where you see in terms of report, presentation, formal rules. For example, like what I'm doing with you, the lecture notes, that's actually considered structured, okay? And then semi-structured document, email, video. So when I actually constructed a certain video sharing with you, using that's also semi-structured. And then unstructured tacit knowledge, this is actually where we have a conversation right now, okay? And then if this conversation I don't record, it will remain as the unstructured, okay? So 80% of the business content is semi-structured or unstructured. So this is actually why the challenge and the need to have the knowledge management system so that, we can actually capture the knowledge. All right, okay, let's go to the next one. So again, we are actually looking at the kind of technology or system, knowledge management, okay, that actually can help capture, store, retrieve, distribute, and preserve knowledge, okay. And then it also can bring the external sources, okay. So you can have various kind of tool that can be integrated as well, such as blogs, wikis, and so on. And then then enterprise content management system is actually, you can think of like this, okay, like this visual, okay. It has capabilities to classify, organize, managing both structured and semi-structured, and making it available throughout the enterprise. So, you can create, you can tag, store, retrieve, manage, review, distribute, and publish. For example, UNIMAS have what we call as a knowledge portal, and we do it as a web-based knowledge portal, okay? So UNIMAS website is actually an example of that. So these are actually the kind of what you call these activities that related to that, to establish a knowledge portal for UNIMAS staff or UNIMAS students, okay? So, and then what you call the kind of database, or you captured the structured or semi-structured document or information, okay? So these are all kind of things that can be captured, all right? So this is actually the visual for the enterprise content management system. All right, okay. And then what is actually the kind of what you call challenges that can happen, you know, when you are actually trying to create the enterprise content management system? One of it is about the, you know, when you have a lot of information, so the tag is actually very, very important, tagging. You know, like you go into the Facebook, you also tagging things, you know, like you can personalize that tag. So if you type this tag, and then the Facebook actually can allow you, and then can show, you know, all kind of lists that actually coming from that text for retrieval, okay? So the tagging part is actually very important, and we view from the point of view of knowledge as objects, okay? And then digital asset management system is another specialized content management system to classify, store, manage unstructured digital data. So these are actually really actually related to photograph, graphic, video, and audio. Okay, so this is it. We also can look from the point where we have a photograph, graphic, video, and audio. We want to tag it and also make it systematic. Okay, for access. So there are actually another term or another, you know, specialized tool that called digital asset management system. And then enterprise also actually leverage on the knowledge network system, okay, that can provide online directory or corporate expert, okay, a knowledge portal, for example, okay. So some knowledge networking activity capabilities included, you know, in the content management and collaboration products. So you will see a lot of organization right now, they have the portals, okay, that also provide access to the corporate expert, okay. And then they also permit the search tool to be available. So in UNIMAS also, we have a UNIMAS expert. I think to those students that coming from Indonesia at Surakarta from your university, you also can access your lecturer expert through that, okay? If you go to any kind of corporate, they also have the corporate portal that actually store the directory of their experts, okay? So these are actually the kind of activities going on when we're talking from the point of view of the, you know, tapping on the knowledge on the networking, okay, network system. And then collaboration and social tools. So you will have, you know, the kind of application that are available. Pinterest, for example, is something that very common for us, okay, where everybody shared. We can also access to what they are sharing, okay. And then tagging, okay, and then taxonomies, user-created taxonomy for tagging. So you can actually go into details to find out what are this technology doing, okay. Learning management system. So this is actually the one that Brian mentioned to you, ELIP. ELIP is an example of learning management system. So basically the one that you use, ELIP, can provide tools for your learning management to deliver, to track, to assess, okay, various type of your learning and training or your education, okay. So this is actually the ELIP is classified as a learning management system. So basically, the learning management system can support various modes of learning, so web-based, online, live, and so on. So it can automate selection, administration of courses, assemble and deliver learning content, and measure learning effectiveness. You know, like Rohaya create activities for you, later on using quizzes, you know, your exam, and so on. So this is actually the common thing that apply to all students. Okay, so the learning management system. So the student, if the employees actually use that, it's also applied to all employees. Okay, knowledge work system, like we mentioned just now, this is actually rather specialized for the needs of those knowledge worker, such as researcher, designer, architects, you know, engineers, scientists. And then the purpose of we use the knowledge work system because we want to make sure that, you know, they always up to date with the knowledge sharing, knowledge storing, knowledge access, and so on. Okay. And then they also can function, you know, this knowledge worker also can function as a change agent. They can initiate, they can promote, you know, and they can create values for all whatever project that they are doing by sharing their expertise, okay? So that's actually the context of the knowledge work system. So what are the requirements of knowledge work system? You know, when you are talking about a specialized, you know, group of knowledge workers like scientists, you know, like software developers team, you know, like engineers team and so on, definitely the computing power, like have graphic complex calculation is you need to factor in, okay? And then communication, documentation management. They need to access to external sources of information or knowledge, external database, and then interface, and also they need to actually optimize for tasks to be performed, such as design engineering, financial analysis, and so on. So these are actually a very specialized targeted for knowledge workers. Okay, let me just get this one. Okay, so when you look from the context of the visual for the knowledge work system, so there are these contexts of where the knowledge workers use. So they are actually using a very specialized software, and then they have a workstation for them, and then they also need to get access to the external knowledge database. So for example, for the engineers, they using the computer-aided design, okay, for the engineering architectural design, the architect use that. A virtual reality system, we also see a surgeon using 3D modeling, for example, augmented reality. So these are all coming from the, the advance of the technology use. And then investment workstation, we also see financial traders, brokers, economists also use that. Some of you probably later on will join as part of this job. Okay, so these are actually the examples of the situation where you as a knowledge worker will be exposed, or we have to use this kind of application. So, and then if we talk from the intelligent techniques, the third part, okay, the intelligent techniques that we mentioned are becoming very, very critical and very powerful right now. Okay, it capture individual collective knowledge and it extend the knowledge base so that it can provide the intelligent recommendation, learning through pattern and make decision making actually much better, quicker, okay, and based on the information that are up to date. So what's the purpose of the intelligent techniques? Again, to capture tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge are harder to capture, okay, very hard, because tacit knowledge is mean that it's the communication, the socialization part, okay? So you need a very specialized tool to capture the tacit knowledge. For example, to train a surgeon, for example, a very tip-top surgeon, in everywhere in the world, you can't just, 5 years you can become a good surgeon. It's not like that, okay? To become an excellent surgeon, you need a lot of practice, okay? For example, doctors, when they are enrolled on the medical degree, they have to complete like 5 years. And after that, they have to go to service, then they have to go for the housemanship about 2 years, something like that. So it's already 7 years. And then after that, they want to become a specialized. They go for a sub-specialty, to become, like they want to become, emergency physician, to be called as a specialist. Then they have to go another 2 to 3 years for the sub-specialist. So that is already about 7 plus 2, already 9 years. Now, if you're talking about surgeon actually have to go another sub-specialist again so that they can call, like a brain surgeon or something like that, or people who take the surgery, they have to go to this particular, what you call this journey of the learning path. So you're probably looking to have a surgeon education is about 20 years or something like that, okay? So if you talk from the context of why we have to capture tacit knowledge, it is actually very, very important because a surgeon, they practice, on patient at that particular time. So right now we see that, if there are doctors, expert surgeon in Singapore, they are actually happening right now. They actually can actually, maneuver through robot, okay, to do surgery, on patient that actually at the hospital in South Africa, for example. Okay, they can do that right now, okay, by using, by integrating what we call this robotic, that integrate with the expert system, case-based reasoning or fuzzy logic, what you call this intelligent tools, so they can actually operate that. So if you can Google, you can find a lot of the examples where, the use of intelligent techniques to capture the tacit knowledge, okay? And then we look from the knowledge discovery, the use of neural network and data mining. So data warehousing, data mining is actually part of the very, very important application, for example, for supermarket or for what you call these trading companies. Let's look at supermarket, okay? In Malaysia, for example, we have a Paksen, for example. When Paksen actually having the bonus link, as part of collecting points, rewarding their customer, their clients, they are actually making use of the information or data about the customer, okay, so that they can actually encourage loyalty, okay. So the use of the data mining is actually quite common and widespread all over, okay. So every time that you purchase and you actually use your bonus link and the updated information about you from time to time, so they are actually learning and discover knowledge about you as their customer. For example, if they are actually running the data mining, okay, and then what you call this, they can actually mine the data that actually want to profile, a client that actually belong to the group, let's say 40 to 45 years old, female, and then located in Kuching. What are actually the profile for this client? Then they can actually discover the knowledge of what is this segment of their customer. So the knowledge, the use of data mining, for example, in the context of shopping or what you call this groceries or shopping mall, application. It is actually really good for the customer segmentation. Okay, so these are actually aspect where for marketing purposes, okay, for customer segmentation. And then genetic algorithm solution to complex problems. You will see that, for example, when you are talking from the viewpoint to find vaccine, for the COVID pandemic 19, for example, okay, COVID-19. You need to generate solution to complex problem. It is a very complex problem, okay, to find vaccine for that. So you need a very specialized intelligent tools, okay. And then automating tasks, intelligent agent is also very common nowadays. So there are the use of bots, for example. If you go into provide Q&A and so on, you will see that a lot of bots actually being used, okay, to serve as the intelligent agent. So if you actually asking question or Q&A and then they will ask you more, this is actually not about using a human being. They use a bots, okay, to conduct this kind of interaction with you through the website or web-based application, okay. So you will see that the intelligent technique, of course, we are talking, the artificial intelligence technology right now that actually allow computer-based system emulate human behavior. So artificial intelligence actually, the core for that actually coming from the intelligent techniques, okay. So, and then intelligent technique like expert system. So like I mentioned to you before, so expert system basically a specialized tool, okay, that capture the tacit knowledge, okay, and then in a very specific and limited domain of human expertise. For example, if you are talking from the hospital use, such as a surgeon, for example, expert system is actually the kind of tool that being used to capture the tacit knowledge from the surgeon, okay. So it captures knowledge of skilled employees as set of rules in software systems so that it can be used or you can train another surgeon using that, okay. And then, and of course, there are limitations for that, okay, that actually related to a very specialized situation. So it's not actually all situation actually can be, what you call this, used for that, all right? So this one used for discrete, highly structured decision making, okay? So what are the rules in expert system? So you have what you call this, these are the examples that contain a number of rules. It's a very specialized rules